All right, I think I finally worked out how to incorporate Sissy squats into my life. I did 3 sets of 20 as a warm-up. Now I've kind of warmed up with the squat and I'm going to hit my prescribed 3 sets of 5 with 170. And then I'll go back to Sissy squats and do that for 5 sets of 20. So it's going to be a brutal session today. But I feel great. I feel great right now squatting. Everything feels in check. And yeah, I think I've finally worked it out. I need Sissy squats in the warm-up, and then I'm going to do them after the main movement, which is the squats, for some kind of assistance, hypertrophy, quad building and whatnot. One of the things that came up in my mind and talking to some of you guys was the idea of, doing Sissy squats and why you're doing them and like what's the thought behind it. Clearly Sissy squats is purely for the quads. We all know that. The further the knee travels over the toes, the more quad engagement there is, and the less hip involvement there is, i.e. glutes and hamstrings. And so the idea is like, why do you want to improve your quad so much? Like, shouldn't the squats be mostly posterior chain? And that comes down to, what type of squat you want to perform. The thing that comes into my head all the time when I talk to people about like sports in general is that, or people that are kind of beginning to train is this idea of, what do you want to look like? What do you want to do? And just kind of idolize some of your best sports and your sport athletes. So if you want to, do 3 times a week, 10K runs, all you got to think about is, do I want to look like a marathon runner? Some of the best in the world look like this, right? Is this the body type that you want? Do you want to look like a sprinter? Okay, I doubt they run 3 times a week for 10Ks. So you are what you do, right? So in the case of the squat, I don't necessarily want to look like a traditional powerlifter in suits and gear and whatever. I don't like that look. I don't like how they move. I don't like how they look. So for me, what kind of attracts me more is this idea of the Olympic weightlifting dudes. So those guys look exactly how I want to look, and what they do, how they train is what I should be kind of basing my training on. So instead of, doing what powerlifters do and expecting to look like a Olympic weightlifter, I should do what Olympic weightlifters do, and train like they do. So in terms of the squat, when I perform the squat, I have to perform it in such a way, that those guys train like. So when I look at an Olympic weightlifter, one of the things that I always see is massive quads, really, really developed quads. When I look at myself, I don't have that, right? So in order for me to kind of move like them, I need to have the right kind of equipment to move like them. So it only makes sense for me to kind of concentrate on my quads, so then I can kind of facilitate, this upright kind of posture in the squat. It only makes sense for the body. If you do not have the right equipment, it will shift your levers onto areas where you have equipment, i.e. muscle. So if you're really posterior dominant, your squat's probably going to look like kind of bent over and leaning forward, because that's where your goal power is, right? If you don't have much of a posterior chain, you got huge quads, you probably squat really upright. There's just no 2 ways about it. That's the way it is. So in order for me to squat like those dudes, ass to grass, really upright squat, I need to have the right tools to be able to do that. So I need to kind of shift my training towards, working the quads more rather than just doing the glutes and the hamstrings and whatever. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. This is why I think quad training for me is essential. I also see it in other lifts. I struggle off the floor with the deadlift. And I feel like if I can get the thing to my knees, it's not a problem. Like, I've never failed a deadlift at the knees, ever. Which tells me, for some of you guys that are really good deadlifters, off the floor power is a lot about positioning, right? That's one thing. But it's also about, heavy on the quad. That initial kind of break off the floor, it's a lot of quad. And then the traditional phase is probably, glutes and hamstrings or whatever to kind of finish the top. So you need to generate speed with the quad. So anyway, that's how I'm thinking about these things. So I need to kind of facilitate quad hypertrophy, quad strength. So Sissy squats are really, really good. and they feel good. You know, when you do things and you're like, you know, you feel like you're on the right path. Well, that's what I feel like right now. Like everything's clicking, everything's feeling good. You know, when I do this thing, I feel really, really good. It would be a different story if I was doing Sissy squats and my body was kind of pushing me away, kind of like, you know, with pain, inflammation, all this stuff, and I was like, you know, struggling with it. That's a different thing, you know. I'm always for kind of listening to your body and whatnot. So that's where I'm at right now. Like Sissy squats feel amazing. That's why I'm doing so much of them. So I did 3 sets of 20. I'm gonna do my first set of 170 kilos now. I feel fresh, I feel warm, I feel ready to squat. So anyway, enough of that. Let me hit this first set and see how it goes. And then we'll go from there. All right, let's see if this is on point. All right. Right, that's your first set. Take a breather and go again. I don't know whether you guys can actually see that in the video. It's a subtle change that I've kind of implemented as well. So today I've started doing something called kind of like a explosive movement. I read an article, I can't remember where it was, on the net last night, and they were talking about basically finishing a movement with power, like you're kind of jumping. The way it kind of resonated in my mind, the way I concluded it, is you want to manhandle a weight. So instead of kind of like playing down to the opposition or playing down to the weight, you want to throw it. You know what I mean? Like you want to blow that team out by 50 points. You want to throw that bar off your back. You want to pop that deadlift to your shoulder. The reason I'm thinking about that, and the reason that article resonated with me, it's because you know, I'm stronger than 170 kilos. You know, I could probably get a couple more reps on top of the 5. And so there's a tendency for lifters, certainly me, is to kind of like lift to the weight, as in only apply so much power to the bar to get it up to the finish line, and not actually kind of like power through each portion of the movement. So what I'm trying to do today is implement this, and what I'm finding is that I'm getting more tired. I'm getting more tired for the same amount of steps taken. For the same amount of reps taken, I'm actually getting more tired. I'm getting more quality out of these reps. because I'm trying to move as fast as I can. Now, there's a distinction to be made here. You don't want to sacrifice form for this speed. So one of the things that I thought about was, when you're coming down from the squat, obviously the velocity that you come down on the squat, the higher that is, the more of a bounce you're going to have off the bottom of your squat. And now, what are you bouncing on? You're bouncing on tissue, you're bouncing on your calves, you're bouncing on your ligaments, your tendons, all that kind of like connective tissue stuff. Like not all, but most connective tissue has some sort of kind of like a stretch reflex thing going on. So a lot of people utilize that to get out of the hole because, fundamentally, the hardest portion of a squat is the actual bottom, dead weight. When you don't have any kind of momentum, that's the hardest point in lift. So a lot of lifters, including me, we use that little bit of a bounce to kind of propel ourselves from the hardest position, and then we can kind of like unwind some of the acute angles that our body's in, and then we can kind of accelerate. So you don't want to drop too quickly into the hole and just basically make this a connective tissue exercise where you're just bouncing off of that. You want to go down with control, but on the way up, you want to just smash the bar up, throw everything at the bar. Go as fast as you can through the movement. Once again, thinking about positioning and bracing, all of that. You don't want to, forsake any of that. Like you still want to, maintain perfect posture, perfect positioning, but you want to move through the movement as quickly as possible. And so what that ends up looking at the top is that there's a bit of a pop. And the little bit of a pop is kind of like your glutes are kind of contracting and they're hitting the end range of your hip extension. And then there's like a little jolt at the top. Now, you might not see that on camera because it's 170 kilos and I'm not that much stronger than 170 kilos. But certainly if I was using 100 kilos, you would see maybe the bar even come off my shoulders. But that's what I'm kind of trying to experiment with today. And I'm feeling my glutes working a lot harder. Yeah, I feel more worn out, which is really interesting. Anyway, I've got one more set and then I'll get into Sissy squats. I might show you guys a couple of sets how that looks. I've already showed you guys how Sissy squats look, but I'll give you a couple of, sets of that as well. But before I do that, let me get the squat. Alright, so in that last set, I gave it all I had in terms of explosiveness and power and pop. Freaking exhausted, man. I'm just thinking about my journal here. The numbers that I write, there's so much stuff that's left off the paper. So much stuff that you can't even describe on paper. So today's gonna go down as 170 times 3 sets of 5, but it's completely different, right? I feel like a lot more work was done, a lot more energy was, expended. A lot more fatigue accumulated, I guess. central nervously as well, and also in terms of muscular as well, because I'm trying to propel that thing. It kind of reminds me of the kettlebell swings, you know. Kettlebell swings, you know, the weight's not very heavy, but you're trying to throw it. I mean, that's exactly what you're trying to do. You're trying to throw that kettlebell, generate velocity on the thing, and it's a lot different to what, you know, I mean, I could kill some of these kettlebells, you know, with my bicep, you know. And here I am using, you know, people are using the most powerful muscles in their body to exercise with their weight, you know, like, it's all about the application of the thing, man. It's, you know, I'm just thinking to myself, like, you could be using half of this body weight, half of this thing on the bar, and then still get, you know, quality a training session out of it. So that's another thing you guys can try. I mean, you need to make sure that your technique's on point. You don't want to hurt yourself. Maybe this is not a amateur kind of stuff, beginner kind of technique, because I can see how you can slip a disc. Honestly, I really can see how you can slip a disc, because you're trying to generate velocity, and if you know, let go of your diaphragm for a little bit, if you let go of your core a little bit, there goes the disc, you know, because, you know, if your muscles are not coordinated perfectly in firing, things can go wrong. This is why your Olympic weightlifting sports, you know, where you are throwing the bar, it's a, you know, high chance of injury. Basketball, soccer, sprinting, running, change of direction, all that stuff, where there's speed involved, you know, injuries happen. It's kind of like the saying that people say, speed kills. You know, speed causes you injury, because it's maximum power. You know, you're redlining that car all the way, you know, to the top. So anyway, let me get some Sissy squats in. I'll record a few sets for you guys, so you guys see, you know, what this is about, and we'll go from there. If you guys are wondering how Tom Platz must have felt with those huge legs and those huge pumps they used to get from those leg sessions, just do a couple of sets of Sissy squats. You know, 5 sets of 20 if you can make it, you know, with like 2-3 minutes rest in between. You can do even less rest if you want, but I'm finding it brutal. Yeah, just do some Sissy squats. The quad pump you get is insane. It's like a drug, man. Like it hurts so bad, you know what I mean? Like it's one of those pains that after a little while you get, you know, you fall in love with it. But yeah, Sissy squats, I guess you need to kind of progress yourself to doing full Sissy squats. If you've got shitty knees, I guess you can take it easy for now. Maybe go to a chair first, you know, but still kind of get on your tippy toes by get on the chair, and then get a smaller chair, maybe a stool, and then you can go full on. But if you guys haven't one of you guys actually pointed me in the right direction. There's a fella called the Knees Over Toes guy, that's his name. You can find him on Instagram, you can find him on YouTube. But he's got a whole company on basically teaching people how to squat with knees over toes. And there's heaps of testimonials, people saying how much their knee pains has improved and knee strength has improved. He's a basketball player that got a lot of people kind of jumping high from with this program. And he alleviated some chronic pain that he had in his knees. So that's where kind of the spark came from to get back into sissy squats. I have done sissy squats in the past, and I thought, shit, let me try that out. And the moment I tried it out, it was in the living room, like last week or something. I was like, damn, man, like I did a couple of sets and I felt, my knees felt like a lot better, a lot stronger, you know, pumped, whatever. So that's where it started. Although this guy, the knees over toes guy, he doesn't teach that exactly, the sissy squats. He teaches, you know, the regressions. I guess the end goal is to do some sort of sissy squat, but you know, he teaches you how to go from, you know, freaking wheelchair almost, you know, to be able to jump and dunk and whatever. So it's interesting. Check him out though, and you know, try some sissy squats for a good pump workout. All right, let me get another set. Oh man. All right, one more set, I'm done here. All right, that's it for me today. I'm absolutely bugging. Catch you guys tomorrow.